All right, let's dive in. Today, we're taking a deep dive into the world of Elon Musk.
Oh, fascinating.
I know, right? And to get to the bottom of this enigma, we'll be looking at some excerpts from Walter Isaacson's biography.
His new one.
Yep, the new one. What we really want to understand is what makes this guy tick?
Yeah.
What drives him? What are his motivations, his successes? We even want to touch on some of the controversies.
Of course, can't forget those. There are a few.
Exactly. And you, our amazing listeners, are super curious about how his past shaped the Elon we see today.
Well, you came to the right place. Isaacson really paints a vivid picture of Musk's childhood. And let me tell you, it wasn't all sunshine and roses.
Oh, I bet.
A tough relationship with his dad, getting bullied, even feeling isolated at times.
Wow.
Those kinds of things, they really leave a mark. And Isaacson suggests that these experiences actually contributed to Musk's resilience.
And probably that intense drive we see.
Exactly. You can almost see that determination emerging from a young age.
It's fascinating. Isaacson talks about how, even as a kid, Musk was just captivated by technology. Coding, devouring science fiction books, always pushing the limits of his imagination.
It's like those early passions laid the groundwork for everything he'd go on to do.
Like with Zip2,
Oh, absolutely.
his very first company.
Way ahead of its time. An online city guide. It speaks volumes about his entrepreneurial spirit, that desire to create something totally new.
He really was in the right place at the right time.
He was.
And speaking of entrepreneurial spirit, that combined with his incredible work ethic, it's really obvious during the PayPal days. Isaacson describes Musk pushing himself,
And everyone around him.
yes, to the absolute limit.
Sometimes even butting heads with his co-founders.
Oh, I'm sure. It couldn't have been easy.
Definitely not always smooth sailing, but that drive, unmistakable. It was there from the beginning.
And what's interesting is, Isaacson doesn't portray him as just chasing money.
Right.
It's deeper than that.
Much deeper.
He seems driven by this almost, this need to build the future he envisions, you know what I mean? And that really becomes clear when we look at Tesla.
Oh, for sure.
Because think about it, taking over this luxury electric sports car company and trying to turn electric vehicles mainstream,
It's a pretty huge gamble.
huge.
And it gives us a glimpse into what makes Musk tick. He's not just willing to take risks, he's willing to bet it all on ideas he believes in, even if everyone else thinks he's crazy.
Absolutely. And Isaacson doesn't shy away from the rough parts, the challenges.
Oh, no, not at all.
The early days of Tesla were a mess. Production issues, constant money problems, conflicts left and right.
All the drama.
It's like a soap opera. There's actually a story about Musk sleeping on the factory floor.
Wow, really?
Yeah, just to oversee production, to keep the company alive. It's wild.
That hands-on approach, it's a recurring theme in Isaacson's book.
Definitely.
Musk isn't afraid to get his hands dirty, you know. He pushes himself and everyone around him to their absolute limits.
Which brings us to his, shall we say, unique leadership style. Something we'll definitely dig into later.
Looking forward to that.
But first, we got to talk about SpaceX, right?
Gotta talk about SpaceX.
Because this is where Musk's ambition goes into hyperdrive. I mean, his goal is to make humans a multiplanetary species by colonizing Mars.
You gotta admire that level of ambition.
It's incredible, isn't it?
And you were asking earlier about the impact of Musk's companies, right?
Yeah.
SpaceX isn't just about Mars. They're shaking up the whole satellite launch industry with reusable rockets.
Oh, that's true.
Isaac suggests this could actually democratize space, making it more accessible. Imagine the possibilities. Everything from scientific research to global communications could change drastically.
Wow, I didn't even think about that. But going back to SpaceX's early days, Isaacson paints a pretty dire picture.
It wasn't easy.
No, not at all. Those first Falcon 1 rockets, they kept failing.
They did.
And they were burning through money like crazy.
Until, that is, they secured that crucial NASA contract. And it wasn't just about the funding. It was about validation. It gave SpaceX a new lease on life, the room to breathe, to innovate, and eventually get to those incredible successes with Falcon Heavy and the Starship program.
Okay, so we have Tesla changing the car industry, SpaceX aiming for the stars. But of course, Musk doesn't stop there. He's got Neuralink, trying to connect our brains with AI, the boring company digging tunnels to fix traffic.
The man never sleeps.
It's almost too much to keep up with.
It is. Might seem like a bunch of random projects, but there's a common thread. This fascination with tackling huge, complex problems that could change the world as we know it.
And then there's the whole X saga. The way he took over the platform, the massive changes, the constant controversies.
Classic Elon. Disruptive, unpredictable, always making headlines.
Exactly. And Isaacson really digs into how Musk's impulsiveness and his desire to shake things up, well, they can be both a blessing and a curse.
Oh, absolutely.
It leads to bold innovations, but also to clashes with regulators, investors, even his own team.
Definitely.
It's a theme that comes up again and again throughout his career.
Yeah, you see it everywhere.
And through it all, Isaacson gives us these glimpses into Musk's personal life.
The man behind the curtain.
Exactly.
Right.
We see his relationships, his struggles as a father trying to juggle everything, and the toll it all takes on him.
Because it's not all glamorous, is it?
No, not at all.
Isaacson paints a portrait of a man who's incredibly driven, but also deeply human. Someone who pushes himself and everyone around him to the limit, which can lead to amazing things, but it definitely comes at a cost.
And this is where Isaacson's book really gets you thinking about the nature of success, about the price of progress.
It does, doesn't it? You know, when you mentioned the cost of progress, it reminded me of something Isaacson brings up a lot. He really shows the human side of all these ventures, especially at Tesla, during the Model 3 production hell.
Ah, yes, production hell. Those stories about Musk basically living at the factory are crazy.
Legendary, right? Isaacson describes him sleeping on a cot, just obsessing over every little detail, personally overseeing every single step of the process.
That's so hands-on.
It's totally different from the image of a typical billionaire CEO. Covered in grease, arguing with engineers on the production line at 3 a.m. It's like he couldn't imagine being anywhere else.
He was so committed, and Isaacson really brings those moments to life with some pretty vivid anecdotes.
Oh yeah, like what?
Like the one where Musk completely loses it because the car's interior lining wasn't good enough.
Oh yeah, I remember that one.
Apparently, he just ripped a piece of the lining right out of the car in a fit of frustration.
It just shows the immense pressure he was under, that constant drive for perfection. But it also makes you think about the impact on the people around him.
Right, because while that all-in mentality can be super inspiring, it can also lead to burnout and a really intense work environment.
Exactly.
Isaacson actually quotes some former employees who talk about the crazy hours, the fear of messing up, and the toll it took on their personal lives.
So you wanted to understand the complexities of Musk's personality, right? This is where it gets really interesting, because Isaacson doesn't just focus on the wins. He explores the human cost of those achievements.
That's a good point.
He talks about the pressure Musk puts on himself and how that affects everyone else.
And it's not like he doesn't realize the impact of his leadership style.
Right.
Isaacson even includes stories about Musk trying to lighten things up.
Really? Like how...
Like pulling pranks on employees or sending emails with ridiculous subject lines just to make people laugh.
So the guy who's changing the world is trying to find ways to have a little fun in the middle of all this chaos.
Yeah, exactly. It shows the different sides of his personality, which Isaacson does a great job of capturing.
He does.
But let's switch gears for a second, talk about Musk's personal life, because his relationship with his father seems to have had a huge impact on him.
Absolutely. Isaacson describes Elon Musk as a pretty complicated figure, someone who really influenced Elon's life. He even suggests that this difficult relationship played a big role in shaping his ambition and his need to succeed.
It's almost like he had to prove something to himself and to his dad.
Yeah.
And that drive seems to show up in his romantic relationships, too. Isaacson goes into Musk's multiple marriages and his tendency to fall in and out of love quickly.
And sometimes those personal dramas mixed with his work life just adding another layer to the whole story.
Oh, yeah.
This brilliant, driven entrepreneur who can't seem to find stability in his personal life. It's really fascinating.
It is. You know, one thing that really stood out to me was Isaacson's portrayal of Musk as a father.
What about it?
You can tell he absolutely adores his kids, but he also seems to struggle with balancing fatherhood with his insane work schedule.
Yeah, Isaacson doesn't hide that tension. He quotes Musk's ex-partners talking about the challenges of co-parenting with him and how his work always came first.
It makes him seem more relatable, right? Even someone as successful as Elon Musk struggles with work-life balance, just like so many of us.
Absolutely. It adds a layer of depth to the story and prevents it from being just another hero worship narrative.
Right.
But, you know, speaking of Musk's impact on the world, there's something we haven't really talked about yet.
You mean his leadership style?
That's the one. It seems to be a pretty hot topic.
Oh, it is a hot topic. Some people find it inspiring and others find it a bit much.
Yeah, too intense.
Yeah, and Isaacson does a good job of showing both sides, you know?
He does.
He uses the word relentless a lot to describe Musk's leadership.
He does.
This constant push for more, faster, better, and he expects everyone around him to keep up.
Yeah, and you can imagine how motivating that could be for some people, the ones who really believe in his vision.
Right. Isaacson talks about how working with Musk feels like you're part of something huge, something that could change the world.
This real sense of mission, of purpose, it definitely attracts a certain type of person.
But it's not for the faint of heart.
Oh, no, not at all.
Isaacson doesn't sugarcoat the downsides. You know, the long hours, the pressure, even public criticism.
Yeah, he doesn't.
I remember reading about that email Musk sent to Tesla employees in the middle of the night telling them to stop wasting time in meetings and get back to work.
Oh, yeah.
Can you imagine getting that email from your boss?
I'd be terrified.
Right. It shows how much urgency he feels like every second counts.
Yeah, but you have to wonder, is that sustainable? Can you keep up that level of intensity without burning yourself out and burning out everyone around you?
That's a great question. At what point does pushing people too hard become counterproductive?
Right.
It's a tough balance.
It is.
And it sounds like Musk has even struggled with that himself over the years.
That makes sense.
Isaacson points out that as Musk has gotten older and more experienced, he seems to understand the need for work-life balance a bit more,
Oh, really?
creating a more, sustainable work environment.
That's good to hear.
Yeah, so maybe he's learning to ease up a little bit without losing that drive that's made him so successful.
Fingers crossed, because it seems to be working for him.
Yeah, he definitely still has that intensity, but maybe he's channeling it a little differently now.
Yeah.
He really is a fascinating figure. It's hard to put him in a box.
He really is.
He's this brilliant engineer, this visionary entrepreneur, but also a super demanding boss and sometimes a reckless risk taker.
It's a lot to process.
It really is, and I think that's what makes Isaacson's biography so compelling.
I agree.
It doesn't try to oversimplify him or give you easy answers.
It does.
It just presents a complex picture of this guy who's incredibly smart and driven, but also has his flaws.
And it leaves you wondering a lot of things.
It does. Like, is Musk ultimately a force for good or a force for chaos in the world?
Yeah.
Will his ambition lead to his downfall, or will he actually achieve his crazy dreams of changing entire industries?
Big questions, no easy answers.
Definitely not. But exploring those questions, that's what makes this deep dive so interesting. It really makes you think about success, ambition, the compromises that come with pushing the limits of innovation.
It does. It does.
Well, this deep dive has been eye-opening. We've covered so much, from his rough childhood to these amazing companies he's built and his unique leadership style.
His one-of-a-kind leadership style, for sure.
Yeah, and I think we've come away with a better understanding of Elon Musk, the person you know.
I think so, too.
We've seen his successes, his failures, his flaws, and that incredible drive that pushes him forward.
It's quite a story.
It is. If you want to understand Elon Musk, to really get inside his head and try to figure out his personality and his impact on the world,
You have to read this book.
Isaacson's biography is the place to start.
It's an amazing look at this complex and influential person.
And it leaves you with some big questions about the future we're building.
It does, for sure.
And on that note, we'll let you continue exploring on your own.
Thanks for joining us for this deep dive into the world of Elon Musk.
Thanks for listening, everyone.